Hello, this is the Bluether Style 6 grand piano, 170 centimetres long, Alicot scaling in our storage area. I'm assessing it on behalf of a client to see what work might improve it. So first of all, looking at the casework, we can see that it's probably not been repolished or anything since it was made in 1913. This is what we call ebonized finish. It's black. It's a style that they used called ebonization, which I don't understand fully. I'm not really very good on casework, but do my best. And you can see it's quite faded and dull in many places. If you look all the way around, there's no veneer missing, so it's a bit crazed on the top here, as you can see. So the polish definitely could do with improvement. It would be very difficult to improve this without redoing it, actually. So I think the client is interested in whether we could do a modern polyester finish. It's possible to French polish as well. If we do that, then the inside here, which is original and really it has been restrung at some stage, and as it looks reasonably good, the frame, but I think it would need redoing if it was polyester, because it would have been incongruous if you didn't. The inside, the strings aren't perhaps as good as they could be either. They're reasonable. It's quite hard for me to make a decision on this. You can see obviously something spills on there, but I would say there's a bit of moth damage there, which I didn't notice earlier, but generally no moth in the piano apart from that. So I think restringing and then redoing the frame, the soundboard, it'll look immaculate on the inside as well as the outside, as you'll have seen on our videos of ours, hopefully, that where we fully restored pianos. So that would look immaculate and would be appropriate to do if you did redo the case in polyester. I think in modern finish, then that would be sensible. There's a modern finish polyester piano. That's obviously second hand, but you can see what I mean. They're a very reflective finish compared to that. And if it's you could French polish it, and you might say that's more integral for an old style piano. It actually costs a bit more, but takes longer to do than polyestering. Black is really difficult to do anyway. 30 coats are applied to our non-black pianos, and this requires even more, and it's very hard to get a really flat finish, so it's satisfactory. So polyestering is something we do recommend when it comes to black. If you look at the pedals, you can see how much the piano has been used and loved. The right hand pedal is actually sloping here, and if you can see there's a slope there, that's caused by the foot wearing on it. 6 centimeters from the floor, so it's not terribly low but not terribly high either. 7.5 we mentioned before is maximum. So you could put caster's cups up if you wanted to raise it slightly and still not be too high, but that shows you there quite clearly where that's what I'm stroking now is actually it's angled from there. So this one is obviously flat. You don't use the inner quarter pedal so much, and you can see how worn it is here. So that's just an indication of wear. The key tops have been changed. These aren't original ivories. If you look at them carefully, I don't know if we can focus enough. So sorry about the focus on this. You can see there all the grain. It looks simulated ivory, but it's all exactly the same. It's not like real ivory, but it looks very good. It's an off-white colour. If you redid the piano polyester, this may be slightly too off-white. But it probably will be all right. The front's obviously original, and there's a name Bluether. That would shine up beautifully if it was redone, obviously. It's got Alicot scaling. We don't often talk about this, but if you're a tuner, please comment that the Alicot scaling doesn't seem to make that much difference. It's supposed to obviously enhance the quality of the treble here, maybe make it sound a bit more interesting, a bit louder. But if you press the strings, I can't do this with one hand, but if you were to play the string and then press your finger on the Alicot, you can't feel it vibrating, and I can't really tell much difference. Up here they're tuned the same. Over here, they're tuned an octave different, and here as well. But again, you can't really hear that much difference. I don't think so. And if you're a tuner, perhaps you'd like to comment. We've mentioned these before, so I won't go on about that. You can see the damage here by some sort of spillage and a little bit of moth damage there. So Alicot scaling, not Alicot scaling. I've just assessed a Bluether that's the previous piano I assessed was a Bluether that didn't have Alicot scaling, and really I don't think it makes a lot of difference to the tone. The soundboard looks pretty good on the whole. Not really any significant cracks on it, which is good. But if we did restring everything, we'd refinish the soundboard and the frame too, and it'll look immaculate, very, very beautiful. The tuning pins, that's perhaps more importantly, the tuning pins are tight. They have been restrung. These strings, they're perhaps not as high quality as I would like them to be. If we, they're not bad. I'm trying to obviously make decisions and pick up anything that might improve it. Breakpoint's not too bad. That is good, really. So if you restrung it, it would be slightly improved. The original Blüthner strings, those aren't original Blüthner strings. I just talked about that on the last one to show you why. If you want to look at the last one, I'll put a link to it. Because we do love restoring Blüthners. They're particularly beautiful pianos. There's the serial number underneath. If you haven't got it there, that's at the back of the action, behind the action too, inside the piano. So let's have a look now at the mechanics of the piano. By the way, the rest plank, or the tuning block where the tuning pins go into, is original, and we would normally replace that on a Blüthner because it's very easy to do. It comes out so easily that it's sensible to do that. And then you've got a new rest plank. There's going to be really tight tuning pins in it as well. So that's all work that's certainly recommend if you're going to repolish the piano. If it was a stock piano, we would repolish this. It wouldn't sell enough, and obviously not thinking that way perhaps, but if you want to make the best of the piano, give it good value, then I would do that. I think that we would do that for that reason. So mechanically would be improved, and well, the new tuning block would have extremely tight tuning pins. The Blüthner tuning's very, very stable normally anyway, but there was some mention, and I was looking at that, there was some mention about the strings not being stable, so that would certainly be a good idea to do. We've talked about the Blüthner Patient Action before and how it feels so different, so I'll skip that this time, but we'll put a link to another video if you want to find out a little bit more about Blüthners. Now, as is so often the case with Blüthners, so well loved, the tone is so special really on them, and I've mentioned that many times before. And the hammers are very, very worn. It's just been played so much really. You see, that's very flat. So you can see there's too much surface area. We looked at the last one, I had replacement hammers, and so they were hitting much more cleanly, and these are also very soft. So I don't doubt that the main thing to do here was to replace the hammers, put on good quality Renner or Arbel hammers, and that will certainly restore the tone. The hammers are letting it down. The hammers let it down in the bass too, because if the hammers are not really, mainly they're not the right strength to hit the string. It doesn't resonate the string properly either. So that's something that's would certainly improve, but it's mainly the hammers round here, which is far too soft. We'll just have a listen to one or two to show you what I mean, but round here they really are sounding far too soft and much too much area hitting the string as well. And there's wear on the top one, so you wouldn't have to replace them in terms of them carrying on. You could reface them, but they're soft as well, and if you reface you won't have a lot of hammer left, so you won't produce a very, very good tone. If we listen to the tone here, played quietly, it really is nothing there at all. It won't play softly and give you a nice sound. So that's just too much hammer hitting the string really, and too soft a hammer. And it's not strong up to the top. The last one we assessed had new hammers and therefore was beautifully, very resonant up here. It's usually a problem with Blüthners. They've very often worn hammers and they don't sound very resonant at all in the top treble. So here's the worksheet summary. I've mentioned most of the things there. Tuning pins are tight-ish. I've actually here tight-ish. In other words, they'll be all right. None of them have really been set. That is, we talked about roughening up the wood before, which tightens up the tuning pins. But none of them have really been e-set, and I think they would be stable if you kept it in a good environment. But if you restrung it, you put new rest plank on as well. I didn't mention rest plank here, but certainly that's something we would recommend to do. And so if we're going to replace the hammers, lubricate the action and reweigh. The action isn't terribly badly lubricated. We lift them up here, you can see how if they fall down, it's not too bad, but the sharps, funnily enough, don't fall down. So a little bit of lubrication, but when the hammers are put back on, then we reweigh the whole action. The weighting of the action isn't too bad at the moment. It's between 52, 53 or so and 47, so that's roughly within the normal range. By the way, the up weight, we talked about this, just on the last video again, is very, very high on Bluteners. They feel as though they're pressing against you. When you press the key down, it feels as though it's pushing you back again. Up weight should normally be 30 or less for a very high quality piano, and these really is working against you. But that's something that you're used to if you're a Bluether player, and that's something you accept really. And that's you trade that in for smoothness of action, which does have beautiful smoothness to it. At the moment, doesn't feel good in terms of the tone of the piano because of the hammers too. So, well, that should be enough, and I don't want to repeat myself. Just having a quick look then at the weighting and the things that need doing, clearing the interior, and we were talking about repolishing. But if we repolish, I would definitely recommend, rather than just cleaning the interior, to fully restore it. But we could just clean it and repolish the piano. Difficult decisions to make this. Obviously, the budget might be determining what you'd actually end up doing. So I hope that's helpful. I'm going to play the piano and just to get some idea of the tone of it as it is, but it's mainly let down by the hammers and isn't very strong round here. But it's beautiful pianos, Bluteners, and the Style 6 is one of our favourite. Very similar piano since the Stock came out until 1925, almost the same piano, and then they changed for the normal roller action after that. Thank you very much for listening.